He didn't look like a killer. He looked like someone you'd shake hands with, someone you'd trust with your home, even your children. A businessman, a neighbor, a man who made people laugh. But behind that ordinary life was something deeply disturbing. His name was John Wayne Gacy, and beneath his house lay a secret that would shock the entire world. In the 1970s, Gacy lived in Norwood Park, a quiet neighborhood in Chicago. To everyone around him, he seemed successful. He owned a contracting business. He was active in his community. He attended social events. He even hosted gatherings at his home. Nothing about him raised alarm. But this normal life was only a surface. Because behind closed doors, Gacy was living a second life. One built on control, manipulation, and violence. Gacy often targeted young men and teenage boys. Some were runaways. Some were looking for work. Some were simply trusting. He had a method. He would offer them jobs through his construction business, or lure them with promises of money. Once inside his home, he would gain their trust, then trap them. One of the ways he did this was through what he called a handcuff trick. He would demonstrate how easy it was to escape, then challenge the victim to try. But once the handcuffs were on, there was no escape. From that moment, everything changed. Inside that house, the reality was brutal. Victims were restrained, overpowered, and subjected to unimaginable violence. This wasn't random. It was controlled, repeated, calculated. And when it was over, Gacy didn't take the bodies far away. He kept them close. Many were buried beneath his home in a narrow crawl space, a place just below the floor he walked on every day. Others were disposed of in nearby rivers. But the majority remained beneath him, hidden silent. To the outside world, Gacy had another identity. He became Pogo the Clown. Dressed in bright colors, with painted face and exaggerated smiles, he entertained at parties, hospitals, and community events. Children laughed, parents applauded. No one suspected that behind the costume was a man capable of extreme violence. This contrast between joy and horror is what made his story unforgettable, because the same hands that made balloons and jokes had taken lives. For years, Gacy got away with it, but eventually, people started noticing something was wrong. Young men were disappearing. Families were asking questions. One of the key turning points came in 1978, when a teenage boy named Robert Pius went missing. Witnesses reported that he was last seen talking to Gacy. Police began to look closer. At first, Gacy appeared cooperative, calm, confident. But investigators weren't convinced. There were inconsistencies, and then they obtained a search warrant. When police entered his home, they noticed something unusual, a strange odor. Not overpowering at first, but persistent. They searched the house, then they looked below it. In the crawl space, they found what no one expected, human remains. And then more and more. As the digging continued, the scale of the horror became clear. This wasn't one victim or two, it was dozens. The discovery shocked investigators and the entire nation. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Gacy eventually confessed. He described the killings, the methods, the burials at times. He spoke calmly as if discussing something routine. Other times, he shifted blame, claiming multiple personalities, denying full responsibility. Even in confession, there was distance, a refusal to fully own what he had done. Gacy's trial began in 1980. The courtroom became the center of national attention. The evidence was overwhelming. Testimony, forensic findings, his own statements. His defense argued insanity. But the prosecution showed planning, control, awareness. After weeks of testimony, the jury reached its decision. Gacy was found guilty of multiple counts of murder, and he was sentenced to death. He was passed on death row, but Gacy never fully accepted his fate. In interviews, he minimized his responsibility. He suggested others were involved. He portrayed himself as misunderstood. He filed appeals again and again, each one an attempt to delay execution. There was no clear remorse, no full admission of guilt that matched the scale of his crimes. Instead, there was deflection, denial, resistance, even as time ran out on May 10, 1994, at Stateville Correctional Center. The sentence was carried out. John Wayne Gacy was executed by lethal injection. Outside the prison, crowds gathered. Some held signs, some watched in silence. For many, it marked the end of a long search for justice. For others, it changed nothing, because the loss remained. The victims were still gone, and the questions still lingered. Decades later, this case is still remembered. Not just because of the number of victims, but because of how it happened. Gacy wasn't hidden from society. He was part of it. He lived among people, worked with them, laughed with them. All while hiding something unthinkable. He buried victims beneath his home, living above them as if nothing had happened. And then there was the clown, a symbol of joy, twisted into something deeply disturbing. Some crimes are hard to understand, but some are even harder to accept. Because they force one question: how well do we really know the people around us? John Wayne Gacy didn't hide in shadows. He stood in the light, smiling, trusted until the truth was finally uncovered beneath his feet.